I live near San Antonio, Texas, and every April we celebrate an 11-day citywide party with a purpose. It's called Fiesta. There are daytime and nighttime parades, food festivals, balls, music events, fairs, and even a coronation, and they are all a celebration of Texas history and culture. Over 100 official Fiesta events support local nonprofit organizations, so it's super important for our community. These events are colorful and fun and full of regional flavors. In honor of this 135-year-old tradition of Fiesta, today I'm featuring 5 of my Tex-Mex favorites, and these are all meals in jars. I love doing these types of videos where I feature some of my older recipes because chances are lots of you haven't seen them yet. Today I'll show you how to make a beef enchilada casserole with the exact same flavors as traditional beef enchiladas. My chicken taquitos are crunchy and delicioso, especially with the salsa and the queso that'll go along with them. Beef and bean burritos are scrumptious, made with any type of tortilla, but I'm going to show you how to make my homemade flour tortillas. Everyone I know loves fajitas, and these are super quick to prepare from your food stores. And I'll also show you a sour cream chicken enchilada casserole that tastes like something your abuelita would make. I hope you'll enjoy this compilation video and give these recipes a try. Welcome to the Freeze Dried Foodie, where you'll find delicious recipes using freeze-dried ingredients. Now, it doesn't really matter what brand you have. So many of us have this type of food on our shelves. On this channel, I'll show you how I cook with mine. I'm starting off strong with this first recipe for beef enchilada casserole. It really will give you the same flavors as a regular rolled beef enchilada. In my videos, I like to show you techniques that you can use with other recipes. In this video, I'll demonstrate how I get a better texture for freeze-dried ground beef. It's something that I do fairly often, and it might seem strange at first, but once you try it, I think you'll understand why I do it. I'll show you how to make an authentic red enchilada sauce. And I've even started making this mix in bulk and storing that instead of cans of enchilada sauce. And please remember that even though I use Thrivalist ingredients in my videos, you can use other brands. And any sauce mix I use in the recipes, I have copycat recipes for all of those mixes on my channel. Now, when you go to make this, you are going to need a package of tortilla chips as well as some oil and some butter. You'll start with a quart-sized jar. Because I'm going to make a large serving of this will serve probably 5 or 6 people. And you'll start with 1.5 cups of the ground beef. I do recommend you pulse it. That's how I pulsed it right there. So see, it's small pieces. It's not a powder. It's just pulsed a couple of times, and that greatly improves the texture of the beef when you put it in the enchiladas. And then alongside the beef, you're going to have 1/2 cup of sour cream powder, 1/2 cup of our cheese sauce, and then you'll start to add some vegetables like the green chilies. They make it flavorful but not really spicy. 2 kinds of onions, and we'll add 1/3 cup of our instant black beans. If you don't like black beans, just eliminate that. You don't have to include that. And then we've got 1/2 cup of our pepper jack. You could definitely use the cheddar. You'll need to put a baggie in here because now we're going to start the sauce mixture. This is what will make up our red enchilada sauce. We're going to cook them separately, so they need to stay separated in the jar. These are just normal spices that go into an enchilada sauce. Chili powder, cumin, paprika, and then we've got onion powder, garlic powder, and oregano. These are spices that you probably have already. I don't think it's anything too crazy. I am using the Thrivalist chicken bouillon powder, and it is a little bit more mild in flavor than other chicken bouillons, so you might use maybe half the amount if you're not using our brand. I am using regular all-purpose flour, but you could definitely use the Thrivalist gluten-free flour in this recipe. Both would work great. And then the signature flavor is the tomato powder along with those spices. So our Thrivalist tomato powder is fantastic in this recipe. Once you get all of the enchilada sauce ingredients in the baggie, you can go ahead and seal that up. If you're going to store this for the long term, go ahead and add an oxygen absorber in there. I think you could probably store this for up to a year. As you store this in your pantry, next to it, you can put a bag of tortilla chips. And because we're going to put the tortilla chips in the enchilada casserole, it doesn't matter if they go stale on you. It doesn't matter. So this is what you would store on your pantry shelf along with the cooking instructions. All right, when you're ready to prepare it, you'll get out a large skillet or a pot. Go ahead and turn on your heat. Add a couple of tablespoons of a neutral flavored oil. I like avocado oil because it has a high smoke point and it's very neutral tasting. They say it's pretty good for you as well. Add to that a couple of tablespoons of butter. So the combination of those oils will make your sauce taste fantastic. So you'll go ahead and get those heating and the butter melting, and then you can open up your jar and remove that baggie. What we're going to do is cook the red enchilada sauce first, and this is how you do it. Empty the contents of the baggie into the oil and the butter, and immediately start whisking. What we're doing is we're toasting that flour, and we're toasting those spices. A lot of those spices are fat soluble, meaning when they come in contact with fat and heat, they will come alive and wake up, and they will have amazing flavor. After you have toasted that flour and toasted those seasonings, you're going to start adding water, and you'll add it about a cup at a time. You need to have 3 cups of water waiting, and you'll add it about a cup at a time. I turned down my heat there just a little bit, and as you whisk, this will start to come together and look like the base for a gravy or something like that. Once the first cup of water has been incorporated into your spices, then add a second cup of water and continue to whisk. And this is just how you do it. Once it's incorporated fully, then you'll go ahead and add your final cup of water. That's the 3rd cup of water. And after some whisking, you'll see that this is enchilada sauce. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's quite straightforward and simple. That is a basic red enchilada sauce. You can use that for any type of enchiladas that you are going to make at home. Once that comes back to a boil, go ahead and add your meat mixture to that. And because we've got beans in there and some sauce mixes, they do require a bit more liquid. So I went ahead and I added 1 more cup of water to this. Give it a stir. Those sauce mixes, especially in there, they're not going to want to incorporate into the mixture without a little bit of coaxing. So just be patient with it. Stir it well. And eventually, once it starts to heat up, it will incorporate just fine. And then go ahead and bring it to a boil. And be sure to stir from the bottom. Remember, you have cheese in there that is melting. You just need to make sure that you stir from the bottom. After it comes to a boil, you can go ahead and cover it. And you'll want to give this about 20 minutes of simmer time. I had my heat on a medium-low. Every once in a while, I just came along, lifted that lid, and gave it a good stir. You want your ingredients to swim and not to sink. So yeah, every once in a while, just come in here and give it a stir. Make sure nothing's sticking on the bottom of your skillet. Now's a great time to taste test and see how you're doing with your seasonings and adjust if necessary. But definitely taste the black beans and make sure they're tender. If they're not, you can add a bit more water and cook it a little bit longer. If everything's good, go ahead and add about a medium-sized bag of chips. And I went ahead and crushed those chips with my spoon. You can crush them in the bag if you want to, but I wasn't going to use the entire bag of chips, so I just crushed them in the skillet. but you want to coat each of those chips with the enchilada sauce mixture. You're just gonna want to make sure that everybody is coated, and then you're just gonna let it sit on low heat for about 5 minutes. And in that time, during that time, your chips will have absorbed that sauce and they will be tender. Literally, they will mimic a corn tortilla. That's basically what they are. Chips are corn tortillas that have been fried. So they mimic a corn tortilla in a regular enchilada really well. If you want to gild the lily, go ahead and add some extra grated cheese on the top and allow that to melt. If you were eating regular beef enchiladas, that's what they do. They put cheese on the top of them. Yeah, then it's ready to serve up. This is a fantastic casserole. It's really the same thing as a beef enchilada. It's just not rolled. It's in the form of a casserole instead, but you're going to get those same classic flavors. If you like a beef enchilada from a Tex-Mex restaurant, you will love this recipe. Yeah, you know I ate that, don't you? I enjoyed that bite so much. We served it alongside a salad and then with some sour cream and a little salsa on the side. The beef enchilada casserole is not spicy with heat, but it is full of spice. It's full of flavor. It is fantastic. I'm really excited to share this recipe with you today. If you enjoy Tex-Mex beef enchiladas, I think you're going to love this one. Up next, I'll show you how I make my crunchy chicken taquitos along with the salsa and the queso dip to serve it with. These are so good. Today's recipe is it's 3 recipes. One is for the filling for chicken taquitos, or some people call them chicken flautas. The second recipe is for queso, or a cheese dip. And the third recipe is for salsa. Now, you are going to need to have some corn tortillas. I'm not going to do the recipe for the corn tortillas themselves. So you'll need to buy a package of corn tortillas, keep them on your pantry shelf. They last a few months, or you could throw them in the freezer. I do have a recipe up on my channel already for San Antonio puffy tacos, which gives you the recipe for corn tortillas. You could use that if you want to. It's a little bit of an involved process. It'll take you a little bit longer to make these, but it's a good recipe. And instead of frying those, you could just grill them and make them into corn tortillas and then proceed from there. I also already have up on my channel a recipe for queso. That one was not for a meal in a jar. I just made the queso on the stovetop. So I'm going to show you how to do it as a meal in a jar today, along with the taquitos and the salsa. You don't have to make all of these. They are good independently of one another, but I do like to have them together. Right, let me start with the filling for the taquitos. You'll need a pint-sized jar, and this will give you about 12 taquitos. You'll need 1.25 cups of the grilled chicken dices. I'm going to start by putting the first cup down into the jar, and then I'll put some cheese in there to fill the spaces, and I'll finish with the last 1/4 cup. Note on the cheese, you do need to blend that. Now you can use pepper jack, you can use cheddar, or I use like a combination of the two of those. But you do need to blend that in the blender first before you put it in the jar. And that's because it needs to refresh really quickly, and it won't have time to refresh if you don't blend it first. Okay, as far as the seasonings go, these are delicious seasonings. They will give your taquitos that kind of taco flavor. And I'm choosing to put 1/4 teaspoon of all of those seasonings in the jar. I mean, I think it's perfect. It depends on your spice level and what you like, but I would suggest starting with that and seeing if you like it. To that, we're adding just a few onions, some green chili peppers, some tomato dices. It's a perfectly balanced taco flavor, some veggies. It's really, really good. So anyway, that's the first jar. is the filling for the chicken taquitos. And yeah, really simple, not too many ingredients in there. All right, for the queso, like I said, I have this recipe up on my channel already, and you can watch that video. I'll link that video below if you want more detailed instructions than what I'm going to give you today. Just real quick, you'll need about 1.5 cups of cheese, and you can use a combination of cheddar and pepper jack or all of one or the other. And you do need to blend these. It makes a huge difference in the cook time. I've made it both ways, blending the cheese first and not, and it cuts down on the cook time by about 10 minutes if you will blend it first. Now that sodium citrate is the secret ingredient, the magic ingredient. There's nothing weird about it. It's a naturally occurring salt, but I don't think you can usually get that at the grocery store. I ordered mine from Amazon, but you do need that to make this recipe. It acts as an emulsifier and it'll keep your cheese from separating. And finally, I'll show you how to make the salsa. This is a great salsa recipe. I was inspired by Chef Todd from Thrivalist. I looked on the recipes tab of the Thrivalist website and I saw Chef Todd's recipe for salsa. And I thought, that's a good place to start. Y'all know me, I'm going to fiddle with things and change things around, and I kind of created my own recipe, but it was based on his. I'm using the Lighthouse brand of the freeze-dried spices, including the freeze-dried jalapenos and red onions, and they are fantastic. I highly recommend that brand. The seasonings here are very simple: salt, pepper, and just a little bit of garlic. Don't overdo the garlic there, because it will quickly take over the salsa. All right, to amp up the tomato flavor, I am going to add some tomato powder, and that just really helps to round out that flavor. And because everything is so acidic, I am adding just 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. It does not make the salsa sweet, but it helps to tone down the acid. It's really good. And if you like a little bit of brightness, a little bit of that lime flavor, you can add a packet of true lime. And that's all there is to it. There's the salsa for you. So that is what you could store on your shelf. And like I said, these 3 recipes, they're wonderful independent of one another. You don't have to do all of these, but they are good together. But the chicken taquitos especially, if you're going to make these like I'm showing you in the video, don't forget you need a package of tortillas. You'll need 12 tortillas. So let me show you how I make these. This is a really easy recipe, okay? But you need a very hot cup of water. I mean, super hot, as in I put that in the microwave and it was starting to bubble a little bit. So that is a very hot cup of water I've got in a Pyrex cup, or in a Pyrex measuring cup. And I'm going to recommend you put it in there, and you'll see why in just a minute. You need something with kind of high sides. And I'm going to show you a technique that will help you get a fantastic texture out of your chicken. I would say you could pour the hot water directly into the jar, but if you did that, it's just too full. I prefer putting it into a different container where you have some room to stir. But you need to completely stir this all together. So you want that chicken to be completely coated in the spices, and you want everybody to have access to that really super hot water, because this needs to refresh completely before you stuff the taquitos. So when everything's good and stirred, press down that food, push it down to where everyone is submerged in the water, and then just put it to the side and let it rest 10 to 15 minutes. In order to roll the taquitos, you're going to have to put a little bit of oil on the tortillas, okay? So this is how I do it. I get a microwave safe plate, put a little oil down first, and then I just paint the tortillas. And the oil does a couple of things. First of all, it helps the tortillas not to break or split as you stuff them. And secondly, it also helps them to crisp up in the oven. I am not doing a deep fried taquito recipe. I'm going to do oven taquitos. And I mean, you can cook these all sorts of ways. You could deep fry them, you could pan fry them in shallow oil in a skillet, or you could air fry them. I'm sure, I have not done that, but I'm sure that would work. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you how to make these in the oven. And in order to get the best texture and crisp and crunch out of your taquitos, you need to paint them with the oil, okay? Now, if you have a spray, if you have avocado oil spray, that will work wonderfully as well. Now, you've got to microwave these for about 1.5 minutes. So put that whole stack in the microwave. I microwaved for 1 minute, flipped the entire thing over, microwaved for another 30 seconds, and those stayed nice and warm. All right, let's check on our chicken filling. So give it a stir. It's been about 10 or 12 minutes here, and that was perfect for my chicken because my water was nice and hot and everything was submerged. Do give it a taste. Make sure, find a big chunk of chicken and taste it, and you're welcome. Yes, it's so good. Okay, so delicious. Now, here's an optional technique I'm going to show you today. You might be thinking, Kareth, what on earth? But I'm telling you, this is going to give your chicken fantastic texture because it will shred it just like the shredded chicken that is put in a traditional chicken taquito. I first saw this technique with someone who got out their KitchenAid mixer and put a Costco rotisserie chicken in there and then shred it with a whisk attachment. And I thought, that's nuts, but it works great. So this is the same idea here. You're wanting to shred those cubes of grilled chicken into something that resembles shredded chicken. So I took that paper towel off. I realized you couldn't see what I was doing. But this doesn't take but maybe 1 minute or less. I mean, you're just putting your hand mixer on low. You're putting those beaters right in the middle. That's why I had you put it in that Pyrex container. But that's all there is to it. Look at the texture now. This is the texture you want for this chicken taquito filling. This is the perfect texture. It just has a whole different mouthfeel, okay? You have to trust me on this one, guys. All right, I want to show you the optional glue. I call it glue. It's like a paste I make to help keep the tortillas sealed so the filling doesn't leak out during the cooking process. Now I'm using flour. I'm making a little paste with flour and water. If you're gluten-free, do not put flour on there. Of course, you'll need to use the cornstarch. I have seen people use a toothpick method when they fry up their taquitos or they bake them up, but I have used the toothpick method with varied success. In my experience, it tends to tear anyway, and then the filling leaks out. So that I'm not going to recommend that. I recommend using this kind of a glue method. It's how they do it at the Mexican place up the road. All right, so you'll stuff 2 to 3 tablespoons of filling into the corn tortilla, tuck it in and roll it up. And then when you get to the edge there, you'll add a little bit of the paste. And you want that paste or the glue to be about the texture or the consistency of school glue. Just so you can paint it on easily. Do place it seam side down on the parchment paper on your baking tray. That'll just help it out a little bit. And then you just rinse and repeat the same thing over and over again. Let me show you a little bit closer how I do it and see why it's important not to put too much water in your chicken filling. You want exactly a cup of water. So it's not too much liquid. It'll just leak out the sides. And then you just tuck it, roll it, paint the edge, and then continue the roll. Boom. There you have it. And then you just continue to do that. I got 12 taquitos out of that amount of filling. You might get 11 or 10 or whatever, but yeah, there you have it. Then you can just put them into a preheated oven. Cook that at 375 Fahrenheit for about 25-30 minutes until they're nice and crispy. And while those are baking, let's make the salsa. Okay, this is really easy. All you have to do is add water to the jar. That's it. You can shake it up or stir it and then just let it sit and refresh. It's very, very simple. All right, so try to get the water into the jar and not on the countertop. But yeah, you can put your lid on there and shake it, or you could stick a spoon in there and stir it up, just so everybody has access to that water. And I forgot to add my true lime, but okay, warning. I would go really easy on this, really light, just a little sprinkle, maybe a quarter of a packet. And that's just because it's a concentrated lime flavor and then it will easily take over the salsa. I mean, if you love lime, go for it, but I would recommend starting out really easy on the lime. All right, let me show you how I make the queso. Just get a small pan and start with about a cup of water in there. You need to bring that to a boil. And now is the time to add the sodium citrate. And like I said, you might have to order that on Amazon, but it's really cheap. I think I paid $8 for that huge bag of sodium citrate, and you just use half a tablespoon in this recipe. Once the salt has dissolved, then you can start to add your cheese. And you just do it kind of in increments. I did about half the cheese to start with. You want to whisk until it's really good and melted. And even though that cheese is blended, you can see little flecks of cheese in there. So it really does take a bit for freeze-dried cheese to rehydrate, even in boiling water. And anyway, you want to add about another 3/4 of a cup of water, something like that. And then the rest of the cheese. And you just whisk and go back and forth between water and cheese until all the cheese is in there and all the water's in there and you have a consistency you like. And then it's ready. That's all there is to it. All right, here come the taquitos out of the oven. Aren't those gorgeous? And remember, I used white corn tortillas. Mine came from a bakery that's down the road. So if you're using the yellow corn tortillas from the grocery store, they'll be even darker than that. All right, let me show you the salsa. So after it sit in the refrigerator for just a little while the taquitos baked, it had plenty of time to refresh. And just look at that. See, it's nice and refreshed, but it's kind of chunky. And guess what Kareth does not like? Y'all, I don't like chunky salsa. I don't mind a little bit of chunk, but that's too chunky for me. The texture's just all wrong. So I put it in a blender cup and then I pulse that like 4 or 5 times in the blender. Now that's the kind of salsa that I like. This is what the salsa looks like at the restaurants that we go to. That's what I'm looking for. And so I just blended it. But y'all, that's a really good salsa. It's good with chips. It's good with taquitos, burritos, tacos, whatever. All right, so here we have it all plated up. I put the queso down on the bottom, and then as I eat, I just dip those taquitos into the cheese sauce. Of course, you could put it in a little bowl on the side, and you could dip them in there like that or whatever. But isn't that beautiful? We have our salsa. I like to have it with some fresh cilantro and some sour cream, maybe avocado or guacamole. They turned out beautifully. Now, if you are deep frying these, or if you're pan frying them or air frying them, they might have like a little bit of a different look when they come out. They might be darker, but they should all be crispy, even from the oven. So listen to that. Yeah, nice and crispy. These should be really good and crunchy. And then you can just, dip it in the yummy queso and the salsa, maybe a little sour cream. But how about that? Yeah, that's just perfect bite right there. These are delicious. And by the way, they're really good as leftovers, reheated. I wanted to show you what we did the next day. So I had 3 left over for a meal the next day, and I put those in the air fryer. I finally got an air fryer, y'all, and I really like it. But anyway, don't ask me for recipes yet. I'm still figuring it out. But they crisped up beautifully in the air fryer. And I combined the salsa into the queso to make a spicy queso. And it just turned out so good. This next recipe is for beef and bean burritos. And I am going to show you how I make homemade tortillas. And even if you don't make the homemade tortillas, definitely make the beef and bean burrito filling. It's just really, really good. You could always put it in a pre-made packaged flour tortilla or even a corn tortilla. It's so tasty. When I was young, my family lived in the Dallas, Texas area, and we had some friends from church who had moved to Dallas from Mexico. They shared with us their recipe for homemade tortillas, and I just have figured out how to keep it on my shelf. The recipe for the beef and bean burrito filling that I'm going to show you, this is kind of from my mom's recipe box, and it's so tasty. It really is wonderful. You can use it on nacho chips or on tostadas. I think it would be fantastic as a chimichanga if you stuffed that tortilla and then pan fried it. That sounds so good. All right, let's make the filling first. I'm starting with a 24-ounce jar. This makes about 4 servings of the filling for us, for our family. Now, if you make this and decide, hey, I would like some more filling for my family, you could definitely put this in a quart-sized jar and increase the amount of beef and cheese and beans that you put in here. It's very important to use the instant refried beans. All right, as far as the green chilies go, I usually use Thrivalist green chilies, but today I'm going to try the Lighthouse brand of jalapenos. I had a subscriber tell me about those and I ordered them, and now I'm excited to try them. Spoiler alert, they are spicier than the regular green chilies that I'm used to, and I loved them. These spices are fantastic in here. You need every single one of them. If you don't have that Goya adobo, just substitute garlic powder. All right, so this is my beef and bean filling jar, and this is something that you could keep stored on your pantry shelf. If you try this recipe and you like this filling, then I suggest you make 2 or 3 of these jars at a time and keep them on your shelf, and that way you'll have them when you need them. Let me show you how I make the tortilla mix. Now, most of the time, I do not make homemade tortillas myself. Reason being, I live in South Texas, and I can find homemade tortillas at virtually every restaurant and bakery around here. I do think that learning how to make a homemade tortilla or some sort of a flatbread or a wrap or a pita, something like that, I think that is actually a really good skill to have. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And like I said, whether or not you decide to, that's up to you. But I want to show you how it can be done. Maybe you could save this recipe for a rainy day. I mean, right now we don't have any trouble getting flour tortillas at the grocery store. But you never know what could happen in the future. There might come a time where you can't really get what you'd like to get at the store. So this is a worthy skill, okay? So what you want to do is scoop the flour into the measuring cup. That way you don't get too much flour in there. And then this is all going to go into a medium-sized bowl. It's flour, baking powder, salt, and fat. That's all that is in tortillas. And then, of course, when you're ready to make them, you add water. But this is the recipe that comes straight from Mexico, from our friends that lived in Mexico, and it is a wonderful flour tortilla recipe. I'm using lard because that's what I grew up using. I have had subscribers ask me, can I use shortening? And yes, you can use shortening. You could use butter flavor shortening. You could probably use butter in this as well. Use what you have. But I like using lard. I think it gives the best result. All right, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to just do this with your hands. You do not have to do it with your hands. You could put this in a food processor. You could use a fork. You could use a pastry blender. But I'm going to show you, you don't have to have any of that special equipment. You can do this with your hands, okay? And basically what you want to do is, it's clean hands, of course, and then get your hands in there and basically you squeeze the lard into the flour and then you rub it. So it's a squeezing motion and a rubbing motion. And it's combining the flour mix with the fat. That's just the best way to get a good distribution of fat throughout that flour. And it's really kind of fun to do. It didn't take me but maybe 1 minute to do that. That is your flour tortilla mixture. That is what you could put on your pantry shelf and store in a jar for probably up to 3 or 4 months. I don't like to keep it much longer than that just because the lard can go kind of funny on you. So anyway, so that's what you would store on your pantry shelf. Okay, and just FYI, if you decide to make the homemade flour tortillas, this whole recipe is going to take you about an hour. When you're ready to make this, what you'll want to do is actually start with the filling. You'll empty that jar into a large skillet and you need to add hot water to it. So this is hot tap water. You'll give that a stir, and all we're doing here is giving this a head start because it's just going to sit there, okay? I didn't even turn on the heat. I just want it to sit there and soak for a little while because that freeze-dried beef and those beans, they will soak up a lot of that hot water and that rehydration process will start and it'll be super yummy. Now, let me show you how to put together the tortilla dough. Get out a medium-sized bowl, empty the contents of your jar into that bowl, and you need really hot water. You're going to add somewhere between 1/2 cup and 2/3 of a cup of very hot tap water. The reason you need hot water is because you're wanting to melt the lard. You want to melt the fat into the flour mixture. So start with a spoon as you are mixing it in because the water is going to be really good and hot. Start with a spoon and see where you are. I've got 2/3 of a cup of water right there. I didn't end up adding all of it. I started adding about 1/2 cup and then I added a tablespoon at a time after that. And I didn't use the whole thing. I probably had a tablespoon or 2 left over of that hot water that just I didn't need in there. What you're looking for in your dough is a consistency that is quite tacky. You want something kind of sticky, okay? Not so sticky that it's sticking to your hands, but you need it to be really kind of a wet dough. Not too wet, but definitely not dry. And you just add water until you get to that consistency. Now this is my least favorite part, okay? It's the kneading. I do not enjoy kneading, but you do need to knead it. Just put on a couple of songs and knead through 2 songs and you'll be good. You need to knead it for about 10 minutes. It is absolutely amazing the difference in texture your dough will have after just 10 minutes of kneading. It's no longer going to be sticky. Put it back in that bowl and you need to keep that moist. So I covered it with a damp paper towel, a pretty wet paper towel. You could use a kitchen cloth, whatever you prefer. It needs to rest for 15 minutes. So we kneaded it for 10 and now it needs to rest for 15. So turn your attention back over to the skillet. That has just been sitting there. There's not been any heat on at all. It was just hot water that I poured into our beef and bean mixture. But see how different the consistency is already? That beef and those beans, they have really soaked up a lot of that water and they are good and rehydrated at this point. Now you can turn your heat to probably medium or so, maybe medium low. You want to bring that to a low boil, okay? And then once it comes to a boil, give it a stir and crank your heat all the way down to low, okay? And you're just gonna let that simmer on low for about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. And if you'll remember, that's the amount of time that our tortilla dough needed to rest anyway. So that works out perfectly. Leave that on low and turn your attention back over to your tortilla dough. And after that resting period, all you're doing there really is you're letting your gluten relax. If your gluten is not relaxed, then your tortillas won't roll out properly. They'll just contract on you and they just won't roll out. So it needs to rest for 15 minutes or so, 15 or 20 minutes. Now's the time to go ahead and pinch off your tortilla balls. I pinched off little dough balls about the size of golf balls, somewhere between a walnut and a golf ball, and I'm making 8 tortillas. Now, if you want larger tortillas, you can, just make 6. That's one of the benefits of making your own tortillas is that you can customize the size you need. So if you decide to make the kind of burritos where you put the filling in, you tuck in the sides, and then you roll them up and pan fry them, you might want to make bigger tortillas and only make 6 of them. But definitely cover them up. You need to keep the dough moist. I need to get out a little bit of extra flour, and I need to flour my rolling pin and flour my surface. And please do go ahead and make fun of my circles because, yeah, they're not exactly very good circles, but something about the shape of a circle is what you want. I do the little flip slap method to get rid of the extra flour on the outside of the tortilla. And that's about the thickness you were looking for, about the thickness of a coin, something like that. And I drape them over the side of a bowl. Now you do have to go back and forth a little bit here. Just check on your filling. Remember, you've got some cheese that is melted in there and it will tend to stick on you. So make sure you just give it a little bit of attention every once in a while and stir it from the bottom. Just keep it on low. All right, back to the tortillas. I like to flour both sides just lightly and then start to roll them out. And you'll just continue that process until all 8 tortillas are rolled out. Okay, this is the consistency I'm looking for with my beef and bean filling. It's nice and thick. It's not too thick. It will still tighten up a little bit on you as it cools. So if it gets too thick, add some more water here. But that's the consistency I'm looking for. I forgot to tell you, go ahead and taste it. Mine was perfect. But I turned off the heat, put on a lid, I covered it, and I just let it sit on that hot burner while I cooked my tortillas. You need to heat a nonstick surface. I'm using my griddle here because that is the only nonstick surface in my home. I don't have any nonstick skillets. Anyway, I heated that to, it's supposed to be 500. Mine only went to 400, but heat it as high as it'll go to probably what is equivalent to medium high. And you need to cook your tortillas for about 1 minute per side. This is what you're looking for. You need to see bubbles happening within the first probably 15 to 20 seconds of putting it on that hot surface. If you don't see bubbles emerge, then you need to preheat longer. Your surface is not hot enough, okay? Look for those bubbles, make sure they appear. And then you need to cook this for about 1 minute per side. Now, since I had a bigger surface, I went ahead and put 2 on at a time. Now, a real cook could probably flip that with just bare hands, but anyway, I got my spatula and cheated. So you just continue to cook those tortillas until all of them are finished. And when you take them off the griddle, they need to go into some sort of a container that will keep them warm and a little bit moist. So I've got a tortilla warmer, and in the bottom of that, I've got that wet paper towel. I left that in there, and I put a wet paper towel on the top as well. Okay, you want to keep them moist and warm. If you don't have a tortilla warmer, use a bowl and a wet kitchen towel or a damp kitchen towel. Now this is the texture you want in your tortillas. This is what you're looking for, okay? They're foldable. I can fold these and stuff these with burrito filling, and they're not going to tear on me, okay? If you cook them too long, they will be too brittle and they'll break. They're still going to taste good, but that's the texture you're looking for in tortillas. All right, and this is what the filling looks like after the heat has been off and it's just been sitting there for a while. I mean, it's still good and hot, but wow, it's a lot thicker, isn't it? And this is how we like to eat our beef and bean burritos, okay? I just grab a tortilla and fill it with the filling, and that's it. I mean, that's what we like to do. You could put all sorts of things in that. You could put more cheese. I like to add some toppings to the top of it. I like to kind of roll it up and add some toppings on the top, but you could stuff it and eat it like a soft taco. I'm going to show you something that I have done in a past video. I folded in the sides, rolled up the burrito, and then pan fried it in some avocado oil. If you want the crunchy exterior of a burrito, it's almost like a chimichanga. And then I topped it with my homemade queso. That right there, that picture is from a video that I made that's called What I Eat in a Week, I think. Also, if you're looking for just a naturally gluten-free option, you could put this on top of some tortilla chips. It makes fantastic nachos. This beef and bean filling is so good. It's got a ton of flavor from all the spices we put in there, and you can adjust your heat level up or down depending on how many jalapenos you put in there. You could put these under the broiler and melt that cheese if you want to. I do like to top it with lettuce and tomatoes or salsa. That's avocado and sour cream and some fresh cilantro. It is fantastic, guys. This is just such good Tex-Mex food right here. Now this is how I end up eating these most of the time, is I use a fork and a knife, and I just try to get like a little bit of everything on there, a little bit of sour cream, a little bit of lettuce, a little bit of salsa, and that just makes the perfect bite. It's so good. It's funny, while I was filming this part of the video, I had a hard time stopping eating in order to take the pictures. It was so good, and I was really hungry at that point. Okay, so if you don't want to put the toppings on the top, you could stuff them into the tortilla. And I just wanted to show you, you can eat it like that because these tortillas are sturdy enough to hold all of those things inside as well. You can eat it like a soft taco. Up next, I've got a recipe for chicken fajitas, and these are super delicious. If you order these at a Tex-Mex restaurant, somewhere near me at least, they usually come out on a sizzling platter, and alongside the protein, they're going to have sliced onions and sliced bell peppers, sometimes a big old grilled jalapeno. So the recipe I'm showing you here, it's going to have really great flavor, so similar in flavor to what you would get at a Tex-Mex restaurant, but I'm going to have you put it in 2 separate jars, and that's because the cook time for the protein versus the vegetables is different. So that is why I have this going into 2 separate jars. You'll need 2 pint jars for this recipe, and it'll give you about 4 fajita tacos. In my first jar, I'm going to add some chicken slices, about 1.5 cups or so of chicken slices. Just kind of depends on how much meat you want in your chicken fajita taco. And then to that chicken, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of each of these seasonings. Goya adobo is a great all-purpose seasoning. I love it. It's got garlic powder and turmeric and a bunch of good stuff in there. Just some salt and pepper, some chili powder, some cumin, and some paprika. Those are all the seasonings you need really to make these chicken fajitas. These chicken slices from Thrivalist, they don't really have a lot of flavor on their own, but they will absorb a lot of flavor if you add it to them. Now let's do the vegetable jar. So in my 2nd pint jar, I'm adding about 1/3 of a cup of some red bell peppers, and then I'm going to add some green chili peppers. Here's some green bell peppers, and then some onion slices. So it's totally up to you. Whatever kind of vegetables you like on your chicken fajitas, that's what you put in that jar. And then go ahead and season them up. So 1/4 teaspoon of salt, pepper, and again, the Goya adobo. Those flavors are going to mimic what we put in the chicken. And that's all there is, y'all. So these 2 jars are what you would keep stored on your pantry shelf. And the idea here is, if you try this recipe and you like these chicken fajitas, you could make up several sets of these jars at once. You can have chicken fajitas on your table in like 20 minutes. It's a really simple recipe to prepare. And whenever you're ready to prepare it, go ahead and open up your jars, and you need to add some really hot water to those jars. So what I did was put my kettle on and just heated up some water there. And I'm adding about 1 cup of water to each of these jars. And what you want to do is you want to pour in the hot water until you see the ingredients start to float. And then once they float, maybe a little bit more water, and that's about all they need. And you just want to make sure that even what is at the top of the jar is getting access to that hot water. All of those ingredients need to completely rehydrate. So this is how I like to do it. I just like to add the water straight to the jar. And you need to let them sit for about 10 minutes. And if your water's good and hot, that should be a sufficient amount of time to refresh these ingredients. You want to refresh them and then saute them. About halfway through, I just push down the food at the top of the jar. You want to shake that a little bit or carefully stir. That hot water has really good flavor, and that's what you want infusing into those chicken slices. All right, so after about another 5 minutes or so, I went ahead and added more water, more hot water to my chicken jar because those chicken slices had absorbed the water and they had plumped up. And the ones at the top didn't have enough water. So went ahead and added some more water, give it a shake, make sure all that water is good and flavorful. And then you can go ahead and get out a large skillet and start the sauteing process. Go ahead and turn on your heat to medium, and you want to heat up about 3 tablespoons or so of oil. I used avocado oil. When you get some heat on that, go ahead and add your vegetable jar, water and all, and then crank up your heat all the way to high, and you want to cook off that water. So this only will take you maybe 2 or 3 minutes to cook off that excess water. And the reason I like to add the water is because that water's got the seasoning in it. Okay, so after about 3 or so minutes, that water will have pretty much cooked off. And all you're left with is the vegetables, the seasoning, and the oil. And they will saute in that oil really quickly. And once you get some color on those veggies, you can add the chicken jar. So it's the same thing here. I want that flavored water to go straight into that pan, and then crank up your heat, make sure it's on high. And after about probably 2 minutes, that water will have evaporated off, it will have cooked off, and all you're left with now is the chicken, the seasoning, the vegetables, the seasoning, and the oil. So everything just needs to saute for maybe a minute or 2. And that's all there is to it, guys. Now you have a delicious skillet of chicken fajitas. And just like they bring them at the Tex-Mex restaurant, kind of sizzling in some oil on those iron skillets, that's exactly what this is going to smell like and taste like. It's wonderful. So yeah, just go ahead and stuff your tortillas with your fajita meat and veggies. And then you can serve this alongside some beans. I like to have a little side salad, some sour cream, some salsa. My daughters like to put cheese in their chicken fajitas, so it's totally up to you. You can dress these up however you like. But y'all, they are legitimately delicious and really easy. This recipe is how you can get Tex-Mex flavors from your food stores. So I just wanted to open it up and show you the interior. Since we cooked it so quickly, it's not going to be dried out. I mean, it's already pre-cooked, right? So you don't want to cook it a lot longer or else it will dry out. But yeah, we just kind of flash sauteed it in that pan. And I do like to stuff my fajitas with refried beans and sour cream and salsa. You can dress these up however you like. This recipe is so delicious. I hope you try it. And please comment below and let me know what you think. And if you enjoy my videos, if you are benefiting from my content, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. All right, to wrap things up, I've got a recipe for sour cream chicken enchiladas. These are typically made with salsa verde or green salsa, and that has tomatillos in it. Instead of that, I'm using freeze-dried green chili peppers and some packets of freeze-dried lime juice. If you don't already have the green chilies and you're wanting to try this recipe, just use a small can of salsa verde in its place and maybe a tablespoon or two of freeze-dried jalapenos for some kick. And just like with my beef enchiladas, you'll need a bag of tortilla chips when you prepare this. Those chips are going to stand in for the corn tortillas and chicken enchiladas, and you'll get the same flavor as the original, but in casserole form. I'm going to have you start with at least a 24-ounce jar. I'm not going to use one. I'm using just a pint jar because I'm going to cheat, and I'm not going to use a lot of our Thrivalist freeze-dried chicken. I'm going to put rotisserie chicken in the dish when I make it because I have some. I went to Costco, got a rotisserie chicken, and I need to use that meat. So anyway, I'm going to build the recipe. I'm just using a jar that's not big enough, actually. But when y'all make it, use a 24-ounce jar. That's a pint and a half. And then go ahead and add all these creamy white things at the bottom. Real quick, you saw me add some bechamel sauce powder into this. Don't worry, I have a copycat recipe on my channel. I have a playlist for sauce mixes. I've only ever used the Judy's brand of the cream cheese powder, and it's great. Now these seasonings, do yourself a favor and buy yourself some Goya adobo seasoning. It's terrific in here. When it comes time to do like the green layer, so we did the white layer first, now we're doing a kind of a green layer. It's an entire cup of our green chili peppers. And then just like other stuff that's green, I went ahead and put it in there because I'm going to put that in the blender and I'm going to make it into a powder because all of this stuff is going to fit a lot better in your jar if you put it in the blender. And not only is it going to fit better into your jar, but it's also going to help turn your otherwise white cream sauce into a kind of a pale green thing of beauty. It's just so pretty. So I've made this multiple times and I've used the green chilies alone. And I've also supplemented with a little can, like a 7-ounce can of salsa verde. And that is so good as well. This is good no matter what green things you add to it. All right, now I'm putting just a little bit of freeze-dried chicken in this jar, kind of like a placeholder to show you where you would put yours. But you're going to use a bigger jar than this, and your things are going to fit a lot better in the jar than they fit in mine. I went ahead and blended that pepper jack cheese because it'll fit in your jar better and it'll melt faster. So go ahead and blend it. Now watch as I try to kind of smush all of these things in that jar. Yeah, it was a little too full, guys. I sort of like scraped off the top in order to fit the oxygen absorber. Oh well. Okay. The True Lime packets, you can probably store them in your jar. You should have enough room in there. I am just going to put them on top of my jar because I just don't have enough room. If you use a bigger jar and you put like a cup and a half of chicken to feed plenty of people, this will all fit if you use the right size jar. I was just trying to kind of do a shortcut here and it didn't work well. So anyway, don't be like me. Use the right size jar. And yeah, see, I'm going to just have to store my lime packets on the top. The idea here is you try it, you like it, you can assemble several of these at a time, and then they'll be ready for you. So it's a lot faster process if these are just sitting on your shelf and they're just waiting for you for whenever you need them. So it cuts the prep time in half or so. If these are already made, it's a lot faster. Also, get a larger pot than I did. I did not get out a soup pot that was quite big enough. It was a little tight. Everything was a little tight today, but it is really good. I promise. It's super delicious. Add about 3.5 cups worth of water. I've seen those little cans of media crema, and you could add some of that to this if you'd like to. If you want it even creamier, that would be a really good addition. Just make sure you stir it well, get you some heat going on there, and you're going to bring this to a boil. Every once in a while, just come along and stir it from the bottom because you've got cheese powders in there and they'll tend to stick. And once it comes to a boil, just crank down that heat to like a 2 or 3 out of 10 and simmer this for about 10 minutes or so. You're just wanting to melt all those sauce powders. Refresh that chicken. It will thicken up as it cooks. And you're going to have just like a really creamy enchilada sauce right here. Give it a taste, see if it needs adjustment. But remember, those chips you're going to add, they are salty. Go ahead and add those true lime packets. I suggest you start with 2. Stir it really well and then see what you think about the flavor. The sour cream chicken enchiladas with that salsa verde, it typically has tomatillos in there, and those are tart, so it's supposed to have a bit of a tartness to it. That's just what it should taste like. And here comes that rotisserie chicken. Y'all feel free to do that on any of my recipes. You can leave out the freeze-dried and just add some fresh. Now is the time to add the chips. So that was a 12-ounce bag of chips, and that's probably like maybe a third of the bag, and I kind of crunched them up in there. And what you're doing here is you're just making sure to coat all of those chips in the sauce. So what they're doing is they're mimicking the corn tortilla from an enchilada. This is going to give you the same flavor, it's just not going to be rolled. After you let that set for a while and simmer, those chips are going to absorb that liquid and they'll get soft and it will thicken up this casserole, and it's going to give you something that is going to taste so much like a chicken enchilada. It's pretty amazing. Optional, you can add some more grated cheese on the top. Or you could just put a little baggie of the Thrivalist freeze-dried cheese in the top of your jar and then refresh that and have it to put on the top. And so yeah, once it melts, it's ready to serve. Just look at that casserole. I tell you what, this is really good. I think you're really gonna like this. Give it a try. Tell me what you think in the comments. Now, here's my taste test. Drew said I should just leave this in. That's so good. Nothing quite like an honest to goodness reaction. Okay, be sure to check out my cookbooks, y'all. I've got the paperbacks and the Kindle versions up on Amazon, and they're also available as a digital download from my website, which is thefreezedriedfoodie.com. I'll link to all of that below.
I was only able to put up like 5 of my Tex-Mex recipes today in this favorites video. Well, I mean, technically it's 7 if you count the salsa and the queso. But anyway, I have lots of other Tex-Mex recipes up on my channel as well. Just look at the playlists and search for Tex-Mex recipes. I'll put some of those pictures up here on the screen. All right, y'all, it's time for the scripture verse of the day. And today's Bible verse is from Psalm 145, verse 18, and it reads, "The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth." Amen. Okay, y'all, I hope you have a wonderful day, a blessed week, and until next time, y'all take care and keep thriving.